So I just gotta ask, what the fluck happened with the Boruto manga? It seems as though since the beginning of the end of the Boruto Naruto the movie recap stuff, the Boruto manga, they put the brakes on developing and continuing on with the central plot. You know, we had those two chapters. I want to say it was like the last chapter that had a little bit of recap, and the chapter afterward where it was progressing into some interesting territory, dealing with Boruto having the curse mark on his hand and Momoshiki's last message to him. It felt as though it was going into a really interesting direction and getting into what I thought would be the core essence of what the Boruto manga was going to be about, at the very least heading forward after the recap shit. But it feels as though they put a break on developing all of that stuff in place of a typical, very just nonchalant, one-sided, or, you know, just simple plot that we have right now with this simple story. I mean, it's, you know, yeah, a little bit dangerous or whatever, but it feels as though they pumped the brakes on it. And my theory as to why they did this is because I think the anime, potentially, the Boruto anime, because they're developing and they're going into a different direction in a sense, and they're diving more into stuff like the Boruto, you know, special eye that he has that we've seen in the first chapter of the Boruto manga, whatever. They're going into a direction of, you know, developing and exploring that more. So maybe because the anime is actually getting popularity and notoriety, they decided, okay, we're going to slow down on stuff with the manga and let the anime take over on more of these important elements, because the latest chapter and the past chapter or two, I'm just kind of like, really? It seems as though one big thing, which I don't like at all, because in essence, let's be real with ourselves. The Boruto as a whole, ever since the last, you know, Boruto Naruto the movie, everything afterward, it seems as though it's a cash grab, you know, and I'm fine with it in a sense because I love, you know, the Naruto verse and I love the characters and shit like that, so I'm fine with that. But they're taking it a step further into it kind of being, I want to say, disgusting in a way, that they're being obvious about what they're trying to do, because they continue on with the fucking cards, you know, talking about the cards and referencing the cards, like if they really want to push a Boruto or a Naruto card game very heavily, either that or that's just one silly element, because I do remember Masashi Kishimoto saying that he wanted Boruto to be a little bit more kid-friendly. What's more kid-friendly than, hey, you know, some card games, shit like that, like, you know, us back in the day, we was into the Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon, some people still into Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon, nothing wrong with it or whatever, but like, you know, a lot of it is aimed towards a younger demographic, and I think that that's what they're trying to do. Yes, there's some a little bit more edgy stuff going on, especially with this chapter with Tento trying to kill himself and shit like that. But the fact that they continue to push the card game and this small little subplot when we seemingly were going to get into some big stuff really is a letdown, because I was excited and we waited 9 months to get out of the Boruto Naruto the movie recap shit. So we got out of that and then we're thrusted into this shit. And I'm just like, really? The chapter, the latest one, it starts off, hey, they get a B rank mission. It's like, oh, okay, you know, maybe this could be the Zabuza Haku type of arc for Boruto. And I was totally like, all right, let's go. But then we find out, because, you know, last week's chapter about, you know, the butler, Tento's butler and shit like that is not really the butler. And then this chapter explains that he's been dead for a while. And it's like, oh, this really feels like it's completely just a one little small story that they're putting to stall time before we get into things that actually matter. Like, where the fuck is Kawaki? Chapter 1, he was shown, and well, this chapter, it seems as though there was somebody that looked very similar to Kawaki. He had a ponytail, whatever. I don't know if you guys caught that panel or whatnot while Boruto's walking through the village and you see him, which could also confirm that the Iwabi guy from the Boruto anime is not him, because why wouldn't Boruto say, hey, Iwabi, how's it going? It's been a long time or whatever. So there's a possibility there, but it's like, I don't really have interest in what's going on right now with this, you know, Konohamaru-esque kid, Tento, being kidnapped. And I mean, the villain, the most interesting thing, and it's sad to say, but the most interesting thing that he did, aside from, hey, I'm gonna eat your brain, which I guess that's kind of a little dark there, was referencing Orochimaru. But then it goes back to the card game. How does Orochimaru have a card and not me? We're basically the same. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Why do they continue on with this card game shit? It looks straight up like all they're trying to push forth is, we want to sell some cards, we want to sell some merchandise, and that's not how you should approach any story or any series at all, because it just feels forced and unnatural and just ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? There's a difference if every once in a blue they mention it, but every chapter now they're continuing on with that. And yeah, maybe this is a bit of a rant video because I was really excited for the Boruto manga. At this point, I can 100% say, until further notice, Boruto anime over the manga all the way. The Boruto anime, while it does little side stories within it of people falling into depravity, it also is continuing on with developing the plot and diving more into Boruto's special eye and so many good things, while the manga is focusing on small side stories. And something that I was going to avoid talking about it because I didn't feel it was a big issue until this chapter. Now I can honestly say I am in agreement with what a lot of people were saying of the over-sexualization of Sarada Uchiha. It was never in the Boruto Naruto movie. It wasn't like that in, you know, the Boruto or the Naruto Gaiden chapters. It wasn't like that. You come into this, I was kind of like, I feel uncomfortable looking at this. They have her in some really small, I don't even know what the hell you call that, small little shirt and some tiny booty shorts. And I'm like, this is an 11-year-old girl. Like, if somebody dressed my niece like that, I would smack the crap out of them. Like, what do you think you're doing? I really don't like that they're adding in that as well. It seems as though, again, it's more so just a marketing ploy, and they're trying to do like a fairy tale in a sense, because fairy tale, one of the things that it did right marketing-wise and to gain popularity is it had one of everything you would want. It had the busty chick. It had, for the creepy lowly motherfuckers, they have Wendy, whatever. And it seems as though that's what they're trying to do as well with Boruto manga, and initially it didn't feel like that. It feels as though now, because they don't really have possibly a way to continue the story, maybe they had the brakes pumped on them or whatever, that they're just trying different things to grab in different audiences, because the Lolicons, they will look at Sarada and be like, ooh yeah, we got our rocks off because of the over-sexualization. And then you got the card game being pushed. It just feels like it turned into a mess. We had some promising chapters after the recap, especially towards the end, with Momoshiki and Boruto's hand and a lot of cool shit. You know, his conversation with Sasuke, and Sasuke saying he's gonna look into it, and then we're jumping into the side story about a Choji looking motherfucker, and I'm like, what? I mean, it's good to give Boruto, I guess, a little bit more experience, but I felt as though all of this should have been contained in maybe one big chapter or something like that. Very small story. We didn't need the complete bonding training chapter of Boruto and Tento, and then this chapter is like, I'm just not that interested in what's going on right now, and it really, really sucks because I really want to enjoy this as much as I'm enjoying the anime. I can honestly say I think the anime is making great attempts at doing some great things with its story. The manga right now, it's just not worth it at the moment, and I'm disappointed. This chapter as a whole, if I was to give it at bare bones essence, it was an average chapter. It didn't really dive into anything other than the small contained story. I don't really care about the villain like that either, and this is just me being 100% honest with you guys. I really wish it would dive more into what initially was being established and the bigger elements of stuff leading into Kawaki. So I gotta ask, for starters, one, what do you guys think about this chapter? How do you feel about this small contained story about Tento being kidnapped by the seemingly butler, but it really isn't the butler because the butler's dead? What do you think about this new villain that he can eat brains and take their faces? What do you think about Boruto just being the one dude doing all of this? Like, don't you think by now the Hokage and everybody would have been called in or some shit like that? How do you feel about that? What do you think about the over-sexualization? Like, again, I was kind of on the fence about it up until this chapter when I was like, I feel uncomfortable reading this. How do you feel about Sarada's over-sexualization, especially in comparison to how she was dressed earlier on? You know, in every other material prior to this, she was in normal ninja attire. Now she's wearing high heels and a slutty outfit. And it's like, really? Is this what we're doing right now? Is this where we're headed with Boruto? And your thoughts of the chapter. How do you feel about the small contained story, Tento being kidnapped and Boruto there? I mean, there was a couple of little interesting or cool tidbits, but as a whole, it's like, I'd give this chapter at best a 5 out of 10. Average. Not really what I was wanting, especially when you got the anime kicking ass, and the anime is essentially a prequel to where we're at right now with the Boruto manga. And your overall thoughts of all this? Boruto manga, get on the ball game, get back to the interesting things. Oh, and I guess one other question. Do you think that that was Kawaki walking in the village with the shaved head and the ponytail? Or do you think it just happened to be another coincidence? Or the author's playing with us and teasing us that, yeah, Kawaki's somewhere in there? And do you think there will be any connection to Kawaki, to the character from the anime Iwabe? Or is it going to just be completely different? I wouldn't be surprised if the Boruto manga and anime is similar to the Dragon Ball Super manga and anime, where, yeah, they're going to lead to the same direction, but they're going to do many different things, and maybe even the story might be different on how we get there and different characters and revelations. Your real thoughts? I'm disappointed. But that's all I have for this one. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you liked anything I had to say or enjoyed the video, drop me a like. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you want more from me, make sure to subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and stalk my Facebook to get more when the video ends. I'm ForneverWorld, and as always, people, have an awesome day.